I will call this workshop meeting of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board of Friday, August 8th, 2025, to order. And the first action is to establish the attendance and if we have a quorum. So our clerk and everything else we need done, Mr. Knapp will call the roll.
Member Andrews?
Present.
Member Bosler?
Online.
Member Countryman?
Present.
Member Griego?
Here.
Secretary Johnson?
I'm here. Good morning.
Vice President Valines? Here. President Dolan?
I'm here. This confirms we have a quorum. There are 6 here with us in the room, and Board Member Bosler is online. We're happy for that. Busy things going on, huh? The format of this meeting today is a workshop. There are no items that are detailed or indicated on the agenda for any action. It is for information for the board and discussion of the board with presenters and anyone else who has something else they wish to do. To my left is our Executive Officer, Chris Leaf. To my right is Jonah Knapp, who I've already introduced. We're without an attorney today. He's got a vacation. Good for him. Deputy Executive Officer.
Sarah.
Ms. Backus, please stand up. I always have to make a mistake each time. Usually it's with someone's name. We do have an attorney today, Sarah Backus. Thank you very much. It's Mr. Dua who is gone. Take a breath. Deputy Executive Officer, Andrea Buckley there. Chief Engineer, Mark Wright. You'll introduce our panel members in a bit. So we have board staff who's going to present information to us. They're going to be at the table, and at the end of presentations, we'll have time for board discussion and any public comments, questions, or input people want to give. So our first item of business is for Executive Officer Chris Leaf to indicate if there are any announcements or introductions.
No announcements or introductions today.
Brief overview of the agenda, which you could have picked up and we all have. This is an overview, so it's going to be fast. We've taken care of 2 items already. Item 3 is a sole agenda item identified by letter ABC, and we'll indicate what all those are when the time comes. I don't need to say it now. Item 4 is to ask for public comment for items that are related to what we do but are not on the agenda today. So if you have a comment for what's on the agenda today, you'll do that under item 3, A, B, or C. So there we are. I do ask if you fill out a card, that's easier for me to call upon you, but if you just want to raise your hand when you're in the room or online, that's fine, and Mr. Knapp will help me figure out who to call on. You can go ahead and get going. There will be no closed session. And before we adjourn, we may have just a round robin of board members suggesting, maybe saying what they're doing or suggesting what they would like to see on agenda in the future. So now to the agenda. We're at board item number 3A. Mr. Chris Leaf, there's my next mistake. Our executive officer is going to provide us presentation of the draft strategic plan of the board, for which work has been underway for quite a while. Mr. Leaf.
Thank you, President Dolan. Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Valines, board members. I'm Chris Leaf, your executive officer. Today, I'm pleased to present a draft strategic plan for your feedback. I'll make some opening remarks and provide an overview and context. Then the slide deck is largely walking through the strategic plan. I'm not going to read it to you, don't worry. And we can stop anywhere to get your feedback on any specific content there, and we'll take your notes at that time. Next slide, please. It's been more than a decade since the board adopted a strategic plan. The last one was adopted in 2013. Ideally, a strategic plan should be revisited and updated approximately every 5 years. and so it's ripe to have a revised strategic plan, a new strategic plan now. Over the past several months, we've been working on creating this plan, the latest draft of which I'm presenting today. The primary working group consisted of Michael Wright, Andrea Buckley, and myself, with guidance and direction provided by President Dolan and Vice President Valines. This version also reflects feedback from staff who provided numerous thoughtful comments for which I'm very grateful. Also, I shared the draft with the Department of Water Resources and the California Natural Resources Agency, and their input is incorporated as well. All the feedback and comments received helped strengthen the document, and I thank everyone who took the time to look at and comment on the draft. The draft plan is deliberately short and focused, aspirational, and high level. It's meant to be read broadly. This strategic plan is a starting point to provide the board and board staff a beacon to guide our work and the development of more granular implementation plans. A particular emphasis throughout this plan is what I'm calling a learner mindset. To keep advancing our mission, we must continuously learn from outcomes of our previous actions, learn from our mistakes and our successes, learn from others, learn how to work within or how to change constraints. This learner mindset allows us to recognize and take advantage of changing circumstances. It's about being adaptable and making continuous improvements to our policies, practices, procedures, communication, and relationships to better advance the board's flood risk reduction purpose. We have a lot of great expertise on the board and board staff, but the learner mindset demands a certain humility that we can always learn ways to expand, modify, or apply our expertise. Change is constant, and we are experiencing numerous changes that require us to adapt. Changes can be political, cultural, technological, physical, and environmental, including shifting federal perspective on its role in projects and regulatory approach, changing state priorities and resource constraints, advances in technology, and of course, changes in climate, precipitation patterns, and intensity. These factors require us to be nimble and efficient, to make the best use of our resources available to us, to take advantage of change where we can to advance our mission, to be effective leaders, and to forge and strengthen our partnerships with interested state, federal, tribal, and local government agencies, as well as non-governmental organizations and interested individuals. So the following slides will just run through the strategic plan section by section. Like I said, I won't read them to you, but I welcome your thoughts on each of them. And then after that, we'll briefly discuss next steps. Next slide, please. Yes, our vision statement is unchanged from previous versions. So I'll move on to the next slide. Our mission statement, likewise, is largely unchanged. There might be some wordsmithing on each of these, but the thoughts are the same.
Mr. Leaf, do
Yes.
you want me to ask for board? You want the board to just interject on each slide, or wait?
I think it might be easier for the board just to interject.
Okay, I'm not going to call on you all. If you want to talk, just turn your mic on.
This is a workshop, so we can workshop it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, seeing none, the core values, we've identified 4 core values that incorporate who we are as an organization and as individuals in the organization. First is integrity.
It appears we like that one. That's our North Star.
I would say that the plan is, it doesn't reflect a change to who we are. It's really reflective of who we are. and it's to emphasize these things. Up next is leadership. And respect. And problem solving. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Brian Johnson here. Just a couple of questions back to the overall, high level for the vision and the mission. Are those things that you all drafted? Did those come directly from statutes? Describe how you came to the drafts.
Those are really carryovers from the initial version of the strategic plan that was adopted in 2013. Those are things that really haven't changed since we formed as an organization. So I did not investigate their origins.
I thought that might be the case. And my second question was, what changed? I'll ask a different version of the what changed as we get into the, from the high level values to the work. Is there anything that you want us to grasp as a big shift from what we've been doing as we get into the details?
There's not a big shift in what we're doing, but how the plan has been put together is higher level than the previous version, so it's less granular, it's simpler, there are fewer words and context provided in the plan. There was an attempt several years ago for a revision of the strategic plan, and frankly, we got tied up in the details, which prevented us from moving forward. This version was deliberately made shorter and simpler and higher level to be more durable.
Thank you. That's all for now.
If I could, I'll give a little experience to that. I think two of us were part of that. A consultant helped us work it out over about a week. And that strategic plan had a 1.5-page introduction of what the Central Valley Flood Protection Board does, and all of that. That's not as part of the strategic plan anymore. It was actually put in a small booklet because there was a desire on that eager board at the time to describe not only what we wished to do and our goals and strategies, et cetera, but to describe how we would do it, which became, that's not there anymore because it's too changeable to have that in a firm strategic plan. So that's when their aspirations, goals, hopes, ideas, you'll see those instead of, and we will pass this resolution. I mean, really. So there we are.
And the how is still important, but it's a next step beyond this. So we'll get to that
with integrity and vision and public outreach.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Countryman.
Just start to talk. Turn that on. Just start to talk.
Since Brian started this, I'm going to jump right in. I guess when I look at the mission statement, one thing that seems to be missing is cost-effective, timely, efficient. Because actually, I know a lot of stuff that we've been doing is to improve our efficiency, our timeliness, and especially in the permit area with we're going to hear later today about the online applications and so forth. So it seems to me that's also a key part of our mission statement is to work efficiently and timely or some sense like that,
Those concepts are reflected in the goals, and so I agree with you that those are very important concepts, and they manifest themselves in the goals as we've drafted this. But we can look to get another word or two in the mission statement as well.
Betty Andrews here, if I may. I've been through a few of these drafting exercises myself before, not for this board. But I would say on the concept of efficiency and timeliness and all of that, that is in the how. These are the attributes of what we're trying to do to achieve our mission. And so I think they're appropriately reflected. They should go in the goal statement. The high level place where that showed up that I saw was, effective planning for projects, regional actions, and system-wide improvements. I guess you might quibble about limiting it to planning, but other than that, I saw effective in the headline as being the key part that embodied or was a header that those attributes would fall under.
So, Mr. Countryman, stay tuned.
Okay.
And just, I wanted to, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, hi, Keely.
I wanted to align my comments with Mr. Countryman, just in terms of, I'm getting some feedback, sorry. And in terms of the speed, having some sort of measure of efficiency, or just something about moving faster. The other thing that struck me at the top, and I apologize, I'm getting really bad feedback where I'm at, is something around the climate adaptation, because I think that language is just a more modern, I mean, it's a reality that we're dealing with. And we have always been very, very focused on flood protection, and we continue to be, but it's even more imperative because of the changing climate. And so I feel like something with that word, and I haven't toiled with it yet, but
Yeah, understood. We touch on those concepts a bit in the objectives in goal 1 and 2, but we certainly could highlight that further.
It seems, since we're already talking about things that really have details that one or more of us is saying is a goal, we can move on to those then. And then
Let's
sort of,
move to
and
goal
then
1.
sweep back and see if something needs to be revised in the more global statements.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to goals. We've distilled down to 3 goals. I think previously there were 4. But we tried to, there was a lot of overlap between the goals that we had before. So goal 1 is focused on our current system, making it as effective as possible, and making incremental improvements to it, administering our regulatory programs well. Goal 2 is more forward-looking support, planning for the future, regional actions, larger improvements, multi-benefit. And goal 3 is really about our efforts to do all of this with others that are external to the board, to be leaders in the flood protection space in the Central Valley and nationally and statewide, participating in partnerships and focused on the flood risk reduction in the Central Valley. So move to goal 1. So each goal has a little sentence or two to kind of further elaborate a little bit. And then we have objectives under each goal.
I think I heard that objective 1.4 needs the word speed.
We could say something like efficient and timely.
Much better wording.
And hopefully someone's taking notes for me, so, okay.
It's also recorded.
It's also recorded, yes.
Member Andrews, this was the one I think that you were focusing on just a bit earlier.
Actually, it was goal number 2. so-
Okay.
Okay, we'll move to goal 2 then. So, Member Andrews, was there something in this description that you thought needed expansion or some wordsmithing?
Well, I'm, thank you, Chris. Betty Andrews, board member. I am interested in having a little conversation about where the limit of our goal is. The way this is worded, it stops at planning. And I know that we don't actually implement projects, but is there a way appropriately to reflect further involvement beyond planning to actually supporting implementation?
I think that is part of it. We could certainly say support effective planning and implementation. I think that would be appropriate. We do support implementation of projects through our activities.
It does seem to me that that is an important part of what we need to do to accomplish our mission, and that would be appropriate.
Thank you for bringing that up. Now that you say that, I absolutely do agree. I don't know if it's here or somewhere else, talk about ongoing oversight as well. Board members, think that's appropriate? Yes, yes, yes.
Nodding heads are noted.
Yeah. We don't have a photo of Member Bosler yet, but she's not shy. Thanks, Betty.
Okay.
One further comment, again, Betty Andrews, board member. On objective 2.1, I think it could just use a little wordsmithing at the beginning. It says, inform DWR's development and support the implementation of the plan and its conservation strategy. It just seems a little cumbersome. You're not sure what DWR's development is in reference to.
This is referring the update to the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan is developed by DWR, and the board adopts the plan. One of the comments that we received from our DWR partners was acknowledging that relationship more explicitly in the strategic plan, which I think is important. Certainly, I'm open to wordsmithing that a bit. I also provided all of you a Word version of the strategic plan. So if you have nits and nats and
I have a simple nit I will pass on to Andrea, and I think it seemed unnecessarily cumbersome. It was a long way to get to what the point was there. So
Okay.
I will pass that on.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Dolan here. We would also like to include, as we described, that relationship that the statute says that developed by DWR, adopted, and may be amended by the board. So it isn't that it just comes to us and we say yes or no. We can make changes, because we did to the first one.
Well, that's moving into the objectives, that's why, it is informing the development, so that implies our active involvement in the development, even though we're not the ones physically drafting it. Again, open to wordsmithing to get other concepts in there, but like I said at the beginning, it is meant to be read broadly. That's important context to all of the concepts that are in here.
I see that the slide moved to 2 more different ones.
Yeah, I'm just
still
glancing around
scanning
to
them.
see if there are comments before we move on to the goal 3. I think we can move to goal 3. Objectives, thank you. All right, well, after goal 3, this really brings us to next steps, but I think I'll pause here and ask if there are any comments overall that you would like us to consider as we develop a final draft for you. And again, nits and nats and wordsmithing, you can send us as comments to the Word document that I sent you. And there's always a better way to tweak words to get the point across.
I think one of the challenges of these is to know when you have it at a point of wording that it works. So rather than constantly trying to make it more perfect. I think that's why this one took so long to get here. But I won't start this way.
I just wanted to say thank you for taking the effort. It's not a fun project to go back through.
Yeah.
Development of a strategic plan, and I appreciate the steps that you took to make it shorter, simpler, more to the point, because that's what's needed. This needs to, remind us, remind everyone who we are, what we do, what the point of our work is, and I think that this does it very effectively, and I appreciate the time that went into it by staff and board members.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It is meant to be a touchstone and not a treatise. So thanks.
Gotta remember that.
Keely Bosler.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just want to my comments with board member Andrews. I really appreciate the time and energy that was put into this, and I think it's an important guiding post for us.
Thank you.
Brian Johnson here. I agree. I like the framing of this version of it. By articulating the values and describing the goals and objectives in a fairly brief sort of way. I do want to ask and confirm that you feel like it provides enough direction in terms of priorities and how we work to be useful beyond a statement of principles and actually guide the work.
That's a good segue into next steps, but I'll take other overall comments first.
Okay, that's like bullet 2. Lines.
I just want to echo what has been said about the document. I think it was well done, and I kind of look at these objectives and think about past actions that we've taken that relate to them. And so I see that we are in the right direction, and just makes this a little bit more easier to comprehend and to follow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Countryman? You got more? Okay. Vice President Valines and I we had the opportunity to discuss this with you at one or two of the executive committee meetings, so we got to see some of that. What I saw was really the effort that you led so that we could do something that was updated from a decade ago, and the effort of staff to really contribute and to think through, well, what is it we can do and what can we do better. So congratulate all of you for that. You going to talk about the next steps?
I am going to talk about next steps now.
Then I'm going to ask if our lovely audience wants to talk.
Okay. Well, next steps, this is a start. So the next steps are really for each branch within the board to develop implementation plans based on these goals. Some of the comments from staff were, it's not detailed enough. Can we get into the details on what we're doing and how are we going to measure our progress? And that's very important. But we deliberately left that to the next level because that's going to be more mutable over time and subject to more frequent updating. So I intend that branches will be developing implementation plans based on the goals and objectives presented in the plan, and that as they come up and make their presentations to you once a year, they will inform you of what their implementation plans are and how it's going. So that's the most significant next step after we incorporate your feedback and bring back the plan for adoption at a board meeting. And the comments here haven't been extensive, so we're probably looking at September to bring that back.
I'd like us to try to make it to September. Let's do it in 2025.
Just have to find the time to polish it up.
Yes, in our spare time, we will. All right, I think I saw a hand up. I was going to say later, so come forward.
President Dolan, members of the board, Tom Engler, MBK Engineers, here on behalf of the Central Valley Flood Control Association. So I want to echo everybody's comments. I think this is a great start to the strategic plan. The one comment I would have is in goal number 2, where we explicitly call out DWR. Maybe we should consider also explicitly calling out the regional flood management planning efforts, just to make sure that we keep the locals involved in the planning process. So that would be my one suggestion, but otherwise I think this is a great start and I look forward to continued work on it.
Don't leave. Thank you for doing that. We've championed that because this board with the second plan update really launched that RFMP, but it was locals who embraced it and really made that effort there. So thank you for that. You wouldn't be involved in what's going on there crossing Highway 99 at the...
Not directly, no.
Oh, okay.
I have to drive by it every day, but
Okay.
I'm not directly
Yeah,
involved.
It's like, who did this? Yeah.
It's an Army Corps project
Oh.
as part of the Natomas project.
I can see why they put up all those cones. All right.
Yep.
Completely off point. Thank you,
We
sir.
can talk on break. Thank you.
Was there a hand up over here? Anyone else wish to provide input, comments, whatever? Any hands up? All right. You got a summation, Mr. Leaf?
Thank you.
I think that's what we say to you and to all of you. So thanks. We can move on. Look forward to how you handle all those comments. That'd be great. Okay, are we ready for 3B, as in Bob?
One
Oh.
last last request. So nits and nats, if you can get those to me by the end of this month, that would be great.
Okay, well, we all have it in Word, so you can make edits right there, and the request is to transmit them by the end of the month. So we will. Thank you. Okay, number B. This, as I had said before, we're going to have presentation on various issues. The first one is a presentation on refinements to the California Code of Regulation. That is the sections that affect the board. We don't get to do the whole code of regulations. Andrea Buckley, our Deputy Executive Officer, will introduce each presenter and topic and kind of be the MC of this panel. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Buckley.
Good morning. Appear to be. Oh. Extra close. Thank you. Andrea Buckley, Deputy Executive Officer. Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President of Alliance, board members, and attendees. I'm here to introduce the clarifications and refinements that we're making to our fee structure. As you may recall, as part of the board's ongoing effort to reduce reliance on general fund support and to modernize our funding framework, we are continuing to process an update to our fee structure that was first implemented in 2019. If you recall, at your April workshop, staff presented proposals to update the fee structure, and we received some very thoughtful and constructive feedback from both board members and the regulated community. While the overall approach was generally well accepted, 3 specific areas emerged that require further refinement and discussion. And those topics, please, next slide. These follow-up items are routine inspections will be presented by Preston Shotbell, and system-wide project fees will be presented by Greg Harvey, and the waivers and deferred payments discussion will be covered by Michael Wright, Chief Engineer. So today's presentations focus on these topics will help inform the development of the rulemaking package for board consideration later this year. And we do appreciate everyone's continued engagement and look forward to your feedback here. We will, with that, I will turn this over to Preston Shotbell to lead our discussion on routine inspection fees. And Preston, go ahead.
Thanks, Andrea. Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. My name is Preston Shotbell. I'm the manager of our inspection section. Can we hear me better there? Okay. So as Andrea said, I'm going to be discussing some refinements we've been doing to our routine inspections based on the April workshop, the feedback we received from you all and from the interested parties there. And I wanted to take a minute to talk about how we got to routine inspections in the first place. Routine inspections, as the board defines them, really is pretty, I would say, meager in Title 23. There's no section specifically on saying how these should be done, how often, that kind of thing. There are federal requirements that I'll get into in a minute, but I wanted to bring this to your attention because when routine inspections were first mentioned was with the last regulation update for fees. They were put into the fee schedule, as you can see here, that we currently use today. Those last 2 columns that routine inspection due prior to that inspection, and the routine inspection frequency. The only other text that's in Title 23 is over there on the left. Routine inspection fees shall be submitted prior to the required routine inspection, and then that just describing that they can be found in this table here. So this is the only place in Title 23 that has a frequency mentioned, and it's really solely based on encroachment age. There's not a lot of factors that other factors that go into that, and this was adopted in 2019. So you notice most of the frequencies put there are about 5 years. I believe on the next slide, if you mind going forward, I think some of them are more like 10 years, things like that. The point I'm trying to make here is that there's no distinguishment between any sort of risk of what any encroachment that we've permitted poses to the system. And so, but that's all we had as a rule book to go forward. And so since these were adopted in 2019, the 5 years have come up, and my group has started to do outreach to folks that for permits that were issued in 2019 and onward that have that, they're required to do this. Those are coming up for inspections, and we've started to do that in the past 6 to 9 months. So some findings that we found from starting this program was that after 5 years, most of the encroachments that we had looked at when they were being built and finished up and given us the as-built and you know were inspected all the way through, they're still in great condition. This is anywhere from a fence to an irrigation pipe to a retaining wall, and you know, no violations in the conditions of their permit. Many of those, my staff found one of the biggest challenges was just getting a hold of the permittee, right? 5 years maybe isn't long for that object in the levee, but it's a long time. You know, people move, contact information changes, and so getting a hold of them to say, hey, we're going to be out at, you know, at your property to inspect this item. It took a bit of research to find them, right? And like I said, the overall risk for these, whether it's in a designated floodway, where we're more concerned about blockage and how that affects the regulated stream or designated floodway, versus a federal levee, which we're concerned about prism and seepage and erosion, that's not really baked into this program. It doesn't mean that we don't have some discretion on what we go after, but that's kind of all this had been built upon at the time. Another finding that we observed was for irrigation pipe or any encroachment pipe, for that matter, the testing requires considerable coordination with the owner, right? The typical testing methods are either pressure testing or video inspection. These are acceptable methods for the Corps. Other pipes have different, such as like high pressure gas lines or fuel lines, are subject to other federal regulations that are even a higher, stricter standard than what we do for video or pressure. But anyway, this is the first time we are proactively reaching out to somebody that nothing necessarily is wrong with that pipe, but we need to go and check to make sure that things aren't going sideways. And so that means we're outreaching to them, letting them know there's going to be a routine inspection fee, and then they have to go get a contractor and find someone to do that test of whatever's appropriate for it. So it's a big lift for these owners for pipes that are relatively in good shape. As long as our board's been around, we all know that the extremely aged encroachments are usually the ones that are causing the most problem. And so I think we can move on to the next slide. So with that information and with the feedback we got from the April workshop on the proposed increase in those routine inspection fees. Yes, sorry.
Vice President Villines.
Thank you. I think we're still working on the premise we can just sort of interject.
Yep.
There we go. Is that better? Just, it's a random question, but like, do you have an idea of what that cost is? Because like what you were saying makes a lot of sense, right? Folks like, look, you inspected 5 years ago. I don't have to go hire all these people.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. What does it cost like that? I mean, is it $1,000? Is it $500? Is it $200? Or
It's actually more. I think at the last meeting, Barb McGowan, who represents a lot of permittees and applicants, said it can range from about $3,000 to $5,000. If you have a pipe that's submerged or needs some sort of, there's mobilization, there's setting it up. You look here, this is during construction, but to get access to a pipe and redo that or get it set up in a way to show that it's still doing well,
Yeah.
it can be a lot. So we're recognizing that. And not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but we're also trying to incorporate this testing into the design of pipes as well, right? So that it's easier, so you can plug in and do that testing, that you don't have to do as much literal construction while you're
Yeah.
to do the test. So
easier entry or something. That's
Exactly.
Not digging out everything. But
you
okay.
got it. So So yes, the short answer is it's a lot. It's 1,000 to upwards of 3,500 at this time.
Thank you.
And prices are increasing, so, yeah. So, this is the proposal that I'm coming to you now with a different approach. We do want to focus on inspecting those high-risk pipes that have we've been identified through the multiple inspection programs that the state has, either the utility crossing inspection program that DWR runs, the deferred maintenance program that DWR also runs and helps inspect pipes. And if you're familiar with the P3 or the pipe prioritization program that our enforcement group at the board takes all that data and tries to, we try to think about really what is the one we should go after and what is the biggest issue. The idea is for our group to focus and help get that data that we need so that we can take that information and figure out, does this pipe need to be replaced or lined and that kind of thing. So it's a gap we realize both at local, state, and federal levels. The testing isn't done enough. We don't have enough information on these pipes. And the visual inspections that are being done by the state inspectors to meet federal requirements and soon to be state requirements for pressure test and for video inspection aren't sufficient for the Corps. I want to get into that, I believe, in the next slide. Yeah, okay. So what you're looking at here is the Army Corps Sacramento District inspection flow chart. That is derivative of the entire inspection requirements that the Corps headquarters has put out for their inspection program. This is just a snippet of it, but I want to bring your attention to kind of the left and the right side. The left side are pipes that are part of the federal project and gravity pipes. So system pipes that do local drainage. Those obviously are very important, needed, and are typically maintained by the levee maintainer, right? Because it's part of the system to function. The right side, typically pressure pipes are more on the encroachment side for private use, that kind of thing. And what you're seeing here is that that highlighted area has the pipeline owner provide documentation to show integrity assessments have been performed within the last 5 years. And if no, gets marked as a U, an unacceptable item. Doesn't mean that the entire system is out of compliance, but that item is unacceptable. And so we're seeing a big gap in just the data to say, do we have it or not, let alone is what did we find from the data and what do we do about it. We've been meeting with the Corps. We met about 3 weeks ago to discuss kind of some of the intricacies of this. And we want to continue to talk with them to further discussion on, all right, we have the data. Do we agree on what needs to happen for this pipe for risk reduction? So this is where I'm seeing the routine inspection program can help a lot for private pipes and getting people to raise awareness that this needs to happen. Here's why, and develop some resources to help them do that. I don't have all those details right now, but this is where I'm trying to head.
Just to clarify, the pressure pipes we're talking about are irrigation lines,
Right.
basically.
Usually, yes. Yep.
So, yeah, that's a new, I mean, you can't really inspect those.
I'm sure Mr. Engler has come up with lots of creative ways to do it, but there are different ways to do it, whether it's a video inspection or pressure. We need to work out what is sufficient. I don't want to go out there and do an inspection that's not sufficient enough for the Corps, but we also need to get on the same page.
Right.
And they've been open to those discussion of what is sufficient. It's not a strictly hard line on that. But if you have nothing on your file to say what the deal is, other than a visual picture at the mouth, we don't know what's going on all the way through. So
Right.
there can be some better work on
And
those.
that's going to be hard to do. I mean, those pipes are so small a lot of times, you can't really do a video inspection.
Yeah, a lot of them can be I think you can do video inspection about down to about 4 inches.
Oh, you can, okay.
Yeah, so again, we've been working with some consultants that have the cameras and have kind of told us what the guidelines are for that. So we're in a good spot now that we're getting a lot of information on how to do this and some approaches. So it can be done. Yes, some pipes are just going to be more challenging than others. Absolutely. So.
And, I mean, we require those pipes, right, to go up and over
Yes. Yes.
the levee, so it's not a matter of it bursting inside the levee or something.
Right. I mean, we've had pipes that have eroded over time or had some blowout because of a malfunctioning valve. That can create some quick erosion issues, and that's usually the issue we see with those.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
How does that actually work when it goes up and over? So if you're going up and over, I mean, how do you, like, in terms of maintenance, is it literally laying across the top, or is it just sort of a few inches under or whatever?
It can be both. Typically, over the crown of the levee, it's sitting underneath about 24 inches of soil, so that the maintenance and folks can travel over the top. We have designs that it's minimally buried about 1 foot on the side slopes. Some LMAs even prefer them to be raised above grade. It's an acceptable design. We just want to make sure that the owner's okay with it and the LMA is okay with it for maintenance around it, and but it is an acceptable design on the slopes, but it is buried on the top.
And then the top slopes, but we don't go into, I'm thinking of like Northern California where we have more of this and then it goes into somebody's field. We're only caring about the levee, right?
Generally, yes. I mean, there could be some seepage issues or some balance issues, I guess, or water surface issues. We have seen issues with downstream piping maybe being undersized, and they build a bigger pipe or pump that gets into a smaller system, and then you have valve issues and flow issues. So we try to think of it all, but some things can, not work out sometimes. So I've talked a lot about pipes and this focus, but I do want to talk about an approach for other encroachments as well. So we can move to the next slide, I believe. Right. So obviously not every encroachment that we permit is a pipe or through a levee. So while that might be your focus, I think that the concern for designated floodways and regulated streams should be more towards an approach that DWR's flood project inspection and assessment section does with visual inspections from aerial imagery. Again, we're concerned more about blockage and unauthorized encroachments in those floodways. And we have found that going out to, a remote floodway to make sure that that random encroachment is still there and they haven't built 5 more things, it can help, but we've mentioned what is the best usage of our time, of our limited resources, the drive time, the visual inspection. We're thinking that the outreach to that owner to make them aware of what their responsibilities are, so that the permit wasn't just a one-time thing. It's a living, not a living document, but an ongoing commitment to not building more encroachments on your property, to educating your neighbors. That is going to be a more effective thing than just going out and seeing that everything's the same and we mark them off and be done with that. So.
Are these permitted items or unpermitted items?
These are permitted items.
Oh.
So these are the folks that are coming to us and doing the right thing.
Yeah,
and
the very few.
Let alone the folks that exactly we've gotten those reports every year that more and more unpermitted things are being built, and we're not having capacity for those. So, same note, why would we keep penalizing folks that are trying to do the right things? But again, I think there's a big value in checking in with those permittees to say, are you still the owner? Are you aware of these conditions and requirements?
Absolutely, because ownerships change, things change you get lost, completely lost.
Right.
So the check-in is a good idea.
Right. Okay, we can move to the next slide, please. So in conclusion, this is a fees item. I know I was in the inspection zone for a while, but it was directly related because we proposed fees along with these inspections. And so our update to you is that no actual inspection fees would be proposed for these actions. However, if permitting actions need to happen, you have a name change, you built something on your property that's unpermitted, or you need to maintain it, there are fees that we've already have in our suite of fees that may apply, right? An authorization, a new permit issuance, and those are already being increased, as we've seen in the bigger suite of fees. So that is the proposal here, that we're not going to tack on another routine inspection fee that begets more fees. That's not the point here. So, and that is to us a more efficient way of our resources to get folks to comply and focus on the mission of that flood risk reduction. And again, come at it from a risk-based approach, right? We would scrutinize someone on a federal levy in an urban area higher than a rural area with a designated floodway with no embankments. So our next steps would be to develop our guidelines and procedures to fill in some of the details of what I just told you today, and continue coordinating with the Corps, with the DWR inspection programs, our enforcement group, to make sure that we can back up what we're saying and everyone is aware of moves we're trying to make to help close this gap on those required inspections. So with that, that's the end of the routine inspection section area.
Brian Johnson here. I'm not sure I fully understand all of the nuances and the details of how this works compared to your existing practice, but I think I like it a lot. I think I get the gist of it and understand where you're going with this, and it seems like a super good direction.
Thank you.
We'll bring her up. Member Bosler, looking for your face again.
I'm here. Yeah, no,
There you
I
are.
really, after reviewing the materials in preparation for this workshop, this is exactly what I was for in terms of, really like some more nuanced prioritization. And I think it's especially important when we have the fees that we've been needing to do based on the mandate from the legislature. And so I appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience? Mr. Engler, I won't stray. Good morning.
Tom Engler, MBK Engineers, here on behalf of the Flood Control Association, and we just want to pass on our great appreciation for staff's work to hear our comments, take them into consideration, and come up with something that we really like, and we think this is going to work well moving forward. So, as always, we're here to help. When issues come up, we'll be around. So, I just wanted to pass on our great appreciation for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Great minds working together. Yep, I agree. Very thoughtful and analytical. So we just need some more money. All right.
So next we have Mr. Greg Harvey, who's going to present our refined approach on the system-wide improvement project fees. So, Mr. Harvey?
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Can everyone hear me? No. Good morning. All right. Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. Greg Harvey, branch manager for the Flood System Improvement Branch, and I'm going to be going over the system improvement project fees today. That's everyone's favorite topic. But this is a refinement from what we presented last time. And like Preston said, we took the feedback from this board and the public and members of the association and others and tried to refine our approach. So some of the comments were, fees at the beginning. We had a proposed initial deposit, which was pretty large, 15 to 30,000, and some of the smaller projects that was too much of a cost for them to bear, and so we adjusted the structure to where smaller projects are incrementally increased, and a smaller project has a smaller fee. And the deposit, we refined the deposit a little bit from what this board has seen in the last couple of days. There was a declining deposit, or it was declining, and now it's 33% of the across the board of the fee. And then as some of the projects they move along, they change in scope and schedule and other aspects, and we tried to alleviate that by having the smaller deposit up front, and then towards the end, before permit issuance, then getting the remainder of the fee. So, and then the other one that I wanted to go over was the defining the project. So, what goes into the project? There's a lot, land acquisition and environmental surveys, and of course the design and construction and compliance monitoring, mitigation, and we're basing our fees off of the planning, design, and construction. So a project could be a lot more overall, but what our review is directed towards, that's what we're basing our fee off of. So I have some examples and a little chart for that. So this is similar to what we had before, but now minus the large initial deposit that we had before. So projects up to $1 million are based off of a 0.75% fee, and then as the project incrementally gets larger, the fees go up, but the percentage goes down. So, and we don't have a cap. I think we had a cap before, so if you have an extremely large project, it's similar to how we based our fees off of other state agencies, similar to that. And so now, like I said, the initial deposit is 33% of the cumulative permitting fee instead of the decreasing amount we had before. We felt this was a little more concise and easier for everybody. Next slide. So this graph, we had something similar in the past, but it kind of represents, projects that if you have a project below $1 million, you have a fee that's reflective of that. And as the projects go up in cost, the fee rate tier goes down, and this graph reflects that. So, some of the larger projects over 20 million are 0.2% or 0.15. So,
excuse me, Member Andrews here. Quick question. Your x-axis there includes real estate. Is that
so
part of something that is you define differently, or is that just?
Thank you for the clarification
Yeah.
of the question. So it's not the real estate acquisition that the applicant does. It's our internal review of the real estate documents that we have to verify, and easements and all the review that the staff does. Then we have some examples to show this. So next slide. Project that was a total project cost with everything that goes into it is $7 million, and subject to our fees is 4.2. So the first million's at the 0.75%, and then the remaining 3.2 is at 0.5%. So the cumulative fee is 23,500, and then the initial deposit's 33% of that. Next slide. Current one, so this is a large project, very large. Total project cost is 60 million. And then the planning, design, and construction costs are 36. And based on the tier, incrementally as it goes up, the fee percentage goes down. So the cumulative fee is 87. And hopefully, towards the end, we have the 33% deposit up front. And then we can refine the project cost towards the end so we can get a more accurate estimate. And that was the point of that. So, yes, President Dolan.
So the focus is on slide 17, not the ones before it, because they've been revised?
Correct.
Okay. So we won't critique those.
That's right.
What's that about? Never mind, go ahead.
Just for clarification here, these are non-core projects?
Correct.
So, yeah, I think,
Yeah, these would be subject to a permit from us and 408 authorization from the Corps.
okay, thank you.
The 408 is not always required. I know that.
Okay. Yes, sometimes.
So yes. It's, it's not routine, but
Right.
it's possible.
Thank you. So that's all. I think that's all the slides I had. If there's any questions from the board before Mr. Engler provides his comments.
Board? This is my least favorite, so I'm not going to say anything other than it wasn't our initiative to do this. It was something that was imposed upon us, so we
Right.
will. Okay. Mr. Engler, do you want to sit in the front row?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Tom Engler, MBK Engineers, Central Valley Flood Control Association, thank you again. Obviously, we, again, appreciate staff's work. They've made some refinements based off of the comments we've previously provided. I think that the fees, if you go forward with system improvement fees, these are appropriate fees to be charged. However, we still go back to the fact that the board is responsible for the system, and we should not be getting charged, local agencies should not be getting charged fees to improve your system. That would be consistent with goal 1 of the plan we heard about earlier from Chris, to preserve and improve the integrity and function of the flood control system. That's your job, that's your strategy, so we're trying to help you do that. And we still think that there should be an exemption for local agencies doing system repair or improvement projects on your system. So we'll make that point one last time, and we'll probably make it again in the OAL comments, but just wanted to stay on the record with that. But we do greatly appreciate all the work that's gone into this and the refinements that have been made. We've come a long way since the first time we talked about this. Thank you.
Probably not the last time we talk about it.
Well, I have a kind of a
Mr. Countryman?
thought question here. Now, this could potentially be a project that's sent to the Corps for 408, which could significantly drive up the costs because of the time delays involved with it, and multiple issues associated with that 408 review. Was that considered when you looked at this?
It was considered. So these fees were based off of previous projects, the hours that staff had put in, dealing with all aspects of the Army Corps review, including 408 and the 404 and the cultural and 106 and all aspects, that we incorporated that into this fee structure.
Wow.
Because about 98% of the projects that we permit that are in federal jurisdiction require all those.
Okay, thanks.
Just to follow up on that then. So just to follow up, when individuals are, paying this fee or whatever, it's not like all the there's nothing else being added in. You factored all that in. It is what it is.
Right, so these fees also include all of the encroachment relocations. A lot of the big projects have many encroachments that need to be, moved or relocated or adjusted, so that's part of this. Geotechnical, so all the borings, our reviews included in this. So there's a lot that's incorporated.
Okay. And then do our federal partners also have fees and everything as well? Or is that all it's not factored into this? I assume they can do whatever they want, I guess.
That's correct, and I'm not exactly sure how they charge, or if they do. Tom might know more than that.
Just curious. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just to answer your question, the federal government does not have fees for 408. It's all funded in their, they get an allocation of funding every year, and they usually run out about halfway through the year and then have to go back for more appropriations.
Yeah, and when they run out, then the project just sits there for
That's what I was gonna say.
5 months.
There's the fee.
Because they didn't properly fund the responsibility that they created.
Yeah, that could create an issue with this fee program. I mean, I have one example project that it was a $6 million project when we started it. We still don't have the letter of permission, although we're expecting it soon. And our current cost estimate's about $9.5 million, so the fee would have gone up because it's been in core limbo for 3 years. So that's something I hadn't really thought about, but it's a good point and something that maybe could be considered.
I'm aware of one that was in 408 limbo for 2.5 years, and the reply from the Corps was that 408 was not necessary. That's painful.
Since Tom was up there, I have a question.
Should have got him before he left. He's back.
You told me that you were, or you heard at a conference, was it NASMA or whatever? Did this issue of inadequate funding for 408 reviews come up?
It comes up quite often. We do advocate every year for additional funding, and they did mention that they did get some additional funding in this next year's fiscal year budget. So that's good news, but they still don't get enough. I believe the Corps asks for 22 million nationwide, and they usually get between 10 and 12 million nationwide.
How can they do that? They make the requirement and then they don't fund it. I don't understand it.
No comment.
I'm trying to remember what my dad used to say. Go, Brian.
Thank you, President Dolan. This is Brian. And for the transcript, that was Tom Engler responding to a question from Mike Valines and having back and forth with Joe Countryman. So I'll just say I'm pretty sympathetic, Tom, to the idea that this shouldn't have fees. I'm glad that you think it's better than it was. I like this direction too. Before we vote on it, I'm going to probably come offline with you all to make sure I understand why it has to be this way. Because I do appreciate that comment, and I'm glad that if it has to exist, that this is a better direction. Thanks.
Thank you for clarifying the recording as to who was speaking or not. Okay. Any other comment? Member Grego?
So I realize the reason why we're here and talking about this today is because we want to be less reliant on the general fund. And that's the request that's been made to us. And, I appreciate the graph, about what would it look like, for particular projects based on the dollar amount. And I wish we would have been able to see something like a project that's existing now that would have been implemented with these fees, and how much more would that have cost the project. I think for me that really would make a difference. And I'll just give you an example, like with Three Rivers. Their project in its entirety with everything was $500 million. I mean, what would the fees be on that? And would those fees, hurt the project continuing? And I think that you've reduced it, and I'm glad to see that, but I do understand that the balancing act is that we need the fees in order to operate what we do here. It's a tough act to have to proceed with, but it's one in order for us to be able to provide the services, the regulatory services that we do. These fees need to be implemented. So I appreciate the work and everybody that was involved in the work. I just always, in the back of my mind, think about the projects and how they continue. And I guess in our next section, we'll hear from Michael Knight in regards to the next processes in regards to any type of deferrals and or waivers. So, thank you.
Seems to me fees are going to add to the cost of a project. That's kind of hard to avoid. It's a round robin.
Member Andrews here. I just wanted to say I'm also sympathetic to the argument that there shouldn't be fees for this purpose, given that it is carrying out our mission. On the other hand, I think it's preferable to have that than to have an underfunded agency that can't actually process the permits that you need to proceed with the projects. And we have the example of the Corps. So we're a little bit caught between a rock and a hard place. But thank you for raising that issue and concern. And I appreciate staff's effort to make these costs clear and within the scope of reason for the scale of projects involved.
President Dolan,
Here.
I'd like to add a little clarification.
Harvey? Yes.
Yeah, onto something that Tom had said. So the federal government doesn't charge fees right up front, but because of their lack of funding, a lot of times they run out, and there's agreements like 1156 and 214 agreements where applicants pay the Corps to continue their review. So that does happen quite a bit.
Thank you for reminding us of that, because that's been brought up before. Yeah, if you pay, they'll play.
Mm-hmm.
That was nasty.
Thanks. Just briefly, Board Member Andrews did part of what I was going to say, but just to tie back the threads, with the Corps and the delays and such, it's unfortunate that we have to fund projects like this where we're taking public funding and then paying another state agency to do the permitting and such. But it's all a matter of just, balancing things with what we have to work with. And I don't think $87,000 is going to break a $60 million project. It's better than a delay that causes a third cost increase. So, if it's the way we have to do it, it's the way we have to do it. And we can make a case over a long term for the Corps and also the state legislature to fund this stuff in a less of a leaky bucket way in the first place.
We need to send this transcript off to the budget makers.
Can I weigh in?
Yes, Member Bosler?
Yeah, no, as somebody that's been involved in a lot of regulatory programs over the years, for the legislature and at the Department of Finance, I will say this is more like what regulatory agencies do. I would say we are always in this position of having to remind people of the unique responsibility we have in the Central Valley with the state plan of flood control. And so I think this one is a little bit different. And so I really agree with all of the comments that have been made on the dais today, because it is not as clear cut as other, developers coming in for a regulatory, permit to build something, etc. This is quite different, because this at its core is public infrastructure that the state had a big part of developing. And so it's a very unique situation, and we have a lot of, continual coordination work with the legislature, with the Department of Finance, and others about why this is different.
Boy, there was quiet to that, so I'm going to assign that to you, Member Bosler. I said that with a smile. Okay. Do you have any closing remarks, Mr. Harvey, on this item today? It will come back, right?
Yes, it'll come back. We're going to incorporate this with the other permit fees that inspections that Preston had talked about into our package next month.
Okay. I'm just going to sweep here to see if anybody wants to say anything before we go into waivers. Okay.
Thank you. We're going to be moving on to fee waivers, exemptions, and deferrals. Michael Wright will be leading that discussion.
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. Michael Wright, Chief Engineer, and yes, I'll be going over fee waivers, exemptions, and also reductions and deferments. Just a couple slides, so it should be quick. For fee waivers and exemptions, our current regulations do not provide for waivers or exemptions. I think the board at the time these were developed was very deliberate on that. So our proposed updates do not include any provisions for waivers or exemptions. We do have a suggestion or a recommendation of allowing funding agreements to satisfy the fee requirement, which it would be most appropriate for large projects or programs and not appropriate for private encroachments.
Could you explain more fully why no waivers or exemptions?
That was a board decision that was made when the regulations were updated, that there would be no waivers or exemptions. Once we allow that, it gets us into a position where everybody wants a waiver or an exemption, and
That's true. Well, that's true enough.
right. So it would add to our process to go through all those requests. We'd have to set up criteria for what would be eligible. So we just aren't planning to incorporate that unless board directs us to.
Through the chair.
Member
So,
Grego.
you know, I think there's quite a few of us on this board that have advocated for, disadvantaged communities or rural communities or communities that, don't have the ability to finance some of the improvements and such. And I guess I have to just comment on this in that, the government has already provided criteria for DUCs, disadvantaged communities. I work with that issue all the time. And so I'm sure that there's a floor mat that could be worked out where the board has the ability to either reduce or maybe defer these types of projects, the waivers, in order to see these projects move forward. I brought it up that we don't want these fees to interfere with projects that are important to small and rural communities. And so I would hope that we would find some mechanism in order to utilize under this particular item. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Good introduction. Thank you, Board Member Griego. So for fee reductions and deferments, again, currently the regulations do not have provisions for reductions or deferments. After hearing feedback from board members, though, we would recommend updating the regulations to allow for reductions or deferments in certain circumstances, mostly economically disadvantaged communities that are proposing flood risk reduction projects. Looking at that and having discussions with our executive officer and other staff, it could get quite complicated in the parameters that would need to be considered in order to determine who would be eligible, what information is required to be submitted to make that request. It could also be very simple, as if the board adopted a definition for disadvantaged communities and that community fit that definition, then it could be a pretty simple process.
Mike Lyons, is that, as you said, is that already defined? I mean, could we just copy a federal definition, for example, or would we have to be doing some new, or is that the next slide?
No,
I should
no,
probably
that's-
ask that.
that is not the next slide, but I've done some research, and it seems there are various definitions for disadvantaged communities that exist. Yeah, so I think we'd have to do some research and come to a board decision on what our definition would follow or would be.
Well, yes, I think something like that. My heart kind of dropped when you said no, no waiver exemption, because I just, I'm like Meg Grego and probably the rest of you. I think of things that just don't happen because the community itself does not have the ability to provide funding. And you go for grants and you go for this and you piecemeal it all, and then, the budget collapses at some level, and it doesn't happen. I think if you did research, there would be somewhere something got waived. Hamilton City always, every time there was a storm, and it didn't have to be a big one, it could just be a little one. It overflowed Sacramento River, and this town of very low income, lovely, hardworking folks got flooded. And then the federal government, state government, everybody came in with a bunch of money, bunch of people, put it all back together, and it's tattered since. So over time, took 21 years, something got done, so that doesn't occur anymore. But I'm certain that while they had their levy fundraising taco dinner, that didn't cover their local input. So something happened there that happened anyway. Because it costs when we don't provide protection for communities, it costs. Because no one just sits there and says, oh, you're flooded, you're on your own. A whole lot of stuff that costs a lot of money shows up. Of course, it disappears and it'll have to be done again because the project's not put in place to actually function. So if the fee stops something in communities that are in harm's way, I think we've got to deal with it.
Through the chair, I think that what the saying is, pay me now or pay me later.
Well, pay me now, or the government's going to have to pay a whole lot more of government money to fix something that was not done because of expenses on that end, yeah. I know. Yeah.
Joe Countryman. The fees that were shown in Greg's presentation are not going to make or break a project in a, disadvantaged community or any other community. They're very, very slight. I mean, a $30 million project has $900,000 fee. And, percentage-wise, that's very small, and I don't think it's going to make or break a project. So I think we do need to be realistic about that.
Okay. Fees. Again, it's not something we asked for, but something we're going to have to figure out. So I'm looking for your creativity, Mr. Wright, et cetera.
I actually,
Oh, Member Bosler.
this is Keely Bosler online. Still getting feedback, by the way. I would align with Mr. Country. I actually really liked the write-up was about the waivers, but not the exemptions. I think that many of these projects would be funded with state grants. I think that we need to make sure that those grant monies can pay for the fees, all the project costs, including these. I think it's hard to figure out where you draw the line.
That's the nub. everyone would say they are part of it. I get it. I get it. Is that the next slide?
This is still the same slide, but I do have a
Oh, I see.
few more bullets.
I put my hand over it. Okay. Oh, you do? I see that.
Please go back a slide. Thank you. So some of the concerns we've thought of while trying to develop this more thoroughly. One of those would be establishing the timing of the request, because as an applicant, you'd probably want to know before you spent a lot of funds on your design if you would be receiving a reduced fee. So when does that request come in? It probably shouldn't come in later on when we're issuing the permit. It's kind of too late at that point. So that's one. It would require additional, or it may require additional board decisions if the approval of a reduction in fee was to be considered. We feel it would be more appropriate as a board decision than made at a staff level. So then we would have another hearing and spend more time developing the materials for that hearing, which would lead to increased staff work and time. And then last bullet gets somewhat to the point that Board Member Countryman made. Depending on the reduction percentage that the board would adopt, whether that's 25%, 30%, 50%, it would equate to a very minor cost saving compared to overall project costs. And I pulled $5 million from the charts you saw before, which would have a $27,500 fee. And if we reduce that by 25%, it would still be $20,625. So less than $7,000 reduction at a 25% rate. And that concludes my presentation.
It's not clear to me if you and your staff and others are thinking of bringing something before the board.
Well, I think we're hoping to hear feedback from the board members if we want to go in that direction. Board Member Griego has made it clear she would like us to go in that direction.
I'm with her.
If that's the direction we're given, we'll do it.
Yeah. I get how complicated it is,
Through the chair, this is
but
Mary
I see
Jane.
projects that don't get done because the community can't do it and they're in danger. And that's, our job is to take away that danger. Remember, Grego?
Yes, I think that the board needs at least some flexibility and to make those kind of decisions, especially if an applicant comes up and says, we need a little help here, that the board has the ability to do so. That's what I'm looking for.
Mike Valines, board member, would just add, Mike, that where I would be curious, I would imagine, like we said earlier, we could just find these definitions that fit these in current law and not, try to create something new. I'm not even sure we could do that, but it would be interesting to see if it falls short somewhere or if, we can find definitions that work.
Betty Andrews. I would be very supportive of having clearly defined circumstances to which a fee reduction would apply with limited board discretion, because I think we would be put in a position of having to spend a lot of time on a multiplicity of requests otherwise. But I do support that.
Sounds appropriate to me. Otherwise, we could have an 11-hour discussion easily. More? No more slides for you?
No more slides for me.
So the next steps goes to
I'll take that. Andrea Buckley.
Ms. Buckley.
So for our next steps, we appreciate the engagement and discussion here today, and we're going to take that back as we're drafting those 3 specific outlying topics. We are currently in the drafting process for for the OAL package for the remaining items that we discussed back in April. And those include standard and traditional encroachment permit reviews, project authorization reviews and name change fees, construction inspection fees, time variance requests and revisions to plans, and administrative adjustments to our fee schedule. So those we are firming up, but we didn't require any additional refinement here today. But of course, the board will have another opportunity to look at the full package before we move it on to the Office of Administrative Law. And the public will also have an additional opportunity at that board meeting, as well as the public interaction during the OAL package approval process. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions regarding us moving forward on this.
Do you have any sense of timing on these steps?
So
you're going to say a while. I know that.
I'm not going to say a while.
It's not like you don't have anything else on your table.
I would say we are looking at bringing to that package ambitiously in September, but maybe more realistically in October.
Yeah.
We are soliciting for some contractor support for some of the more perfunctory items in that OAL package.
Oh, good.
So we're getting a little assistance there and appreciate that very much with our contract management team and operations. So that's the tentative, would be seeking board approval for that initial submittal, as I said, ambitiously in September and more realistically likely in October.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, makes sense. Appreciate that. Okay, you ready to move on to the next? 3C.
3C will be, again, Preston Shot Bells.
Please tell me you're not going to call it the PAP.
Never did and never will. Thank you.
It just, we get into these things and I have to remember, okay, what's the FMAP, what's this, what's that? It's, you just add a couple syllables and help us all out.
Good morning again,
Good morning.
President
Thank
Dolan,
you.
members of the board. Again, my name is Preston Shotbell. I'm the manager of our inspection group, and I've had the privilege to be able to be part of the development team that has been working on this permit application portal. Perfect. So just right off the top, to define what this thing is, it's a web-based platform where permit applications and authorizations for work can be digitally submitted. Project status can be tracked, and application information can be directly stored into our databases. It's a website to apply for a permit online, is the shortest way to put it. We are, as an agency, I think, way overdue for something like this. It's bringing us into the 20th century at least, but we think that the product that we've been working on is really just, it's going to be very helpful for our applicants, for our staff, and improve the process. And as we talked about all of the efficiencies that we are trying to gain, this is one of those major efforts that we've taken on the past few years. So next slide, please. So I'm going to go back in time and just start with where we were, and I'll get us back to this and talk about the features a little bit more. So obviously our board has been in existence for a very long time, with most of our correspondence and permits and policies literally exist on paper with typewriter, handwritten notes, that kind of thing, with, as you can see on the left, varying degrees of legibility for people's rights to have their encroachments or projects approved. And in the past 20-25 years, we've shifted to making that data into a database, right? To be able to search things, to be able to pull up old permits, create new permits, review different sets of data, and help our process. So that has been vastly improved over time. This is an internal database that is a desktop and kind of on our intranet, employees only type of database to pull these things up. But it's been the bedrock for our agency for the most recent history. Whenever anyone asks, do we have any permits on this property or multiple, was this built correctly? Where are the as-builts? And I always think about that with inspections. That has always been our go-to database that we continually, to this day, scanning more documents into, making it more digital and be able to be searchable. So it's been a huge bedrock for our organization for a very long time. Next slide. Yep. So fast forward to 2020, all that data in that database had never really been visualized, right? It's in forms, it's in fields and things like that on a computer, but we're working through the entire Central Valley, geographically being able to visualize this data. We recognize the need for that, and we're able to use some of our budget in around that time to visualize this data, overlay our federal components, regulated streams, designated floodways, all the things that go into our technical staff, environmental staff, legal, everybody's to help them visualize and make decisions and evaluate permit applications. It also really sped up our staff's ability to just respond to questions, right? We have disparate forms of data and information about projects. Where are you? What is this? What's happening? What's your proposed work? The viewer has been absolutely indispensable. But again, this was an internal tool for us, for our staff to be more efficient at our work. Next slide, please. As I said before, that database we worked with for over 20 years was a desktop application that needs, to be connected to our local servers, and is, as well as it works, it's a little hard to get into. So, I think we have a little feedback. In 2025, we had. We developed a web version of our database. We call it Web EP Entry. It was launched earlier this year as an internal tool for our staff to be able to do a classic username and password to log into a website and continue with their permit reviews for technical review and environmental review. Like I said, you can access it through the web browser, and this came about also because of the board's knowledge about the middle mile broadband initiative that was coming down our way, where it was going to really increase the number of permits over a few years by, I believe, 200%, the amount of permits we're going to have to turn out. We needed more, frankly, we needed more staff or more folks to help with these permit reviews, and we had no real good way of getting them connected with the database to complete those reviews. So as something that was a minor need turned into a major need, and we seek that funding and received it, and were able to develop this program. The Middle Mile Broadband Initiative did not end up turning out as many permits as originally intended, but we were the beneficiaries of developing this tool for that. And for the feedback I've heard from staff, is this has been a much needed upgrade, to be able to search things even quicker, enter data a little more fluidly, just be able to pull it up from any computer and use our credentials to get into it. So generally good feedback. Next slide, please. And that brings us back to the subject of the day, the permit application portal. So this allows the public to apply for a permit online. As most anything, it's a convenient web browser interface, and I'm going to talk about the improvements that include the permit application submission experience, checking on the status of their permit, receiving auto notifications to know that they've hit certain milestones in the permitting process, hearing and incorporating the levy maintaining agencies or local maintaining agencies, receiving their endorsement, right? Because most every permit that we receive needs to be endorsed or at least reviewed by the maintaining agency. And that's a cumbersome process, and we're trying to help that with this as well. And finally, the data that someone enters gets transferred over to our database, so it gets incorporated. Next slide, please. So just to wrap up all those disparate things I just talked about, these tools talk to each other, right? There's a central database that programmers have developed, and tables are used, and our viewer pulls that data, and we can look at it very quickly, very easily. Then that web EP entry can go back and forth. It can receive data from the database, and also we can enter our status updates and produce letters and things like that. And now this final piece that we're launching soon is this portal that allows the public to enter their database, and before it gets, enter information for their application. And just as a note, before it gets transferred over to our database, there is still going to be a human checking that data is not spam or something like that, so we don't get inundated with incorrect information. But it allows our intake staff to focus on helping that applicant as opposed to just data entry and putting things in the right boxes, right? So our staff has been way more capable than doing that. We don't want to have them spending time on those type of tasks. We want them to be able to help our applicants through the process. And all of these pieces that you see here are continually being improved. Just because the viewer was developed in 2020 didn't mean that we're not, we fix one piece, but we have to upgrade the other piece to make sure that we take advantage of the new improvement. And also little bugs that we see here and there are continually being looked at. Move ahead. Okay, so we'll get into some of the features as well. These aren't groundbreaking, but they're big for us. As someone applies for a permit, this is basically a digital version of our 3615A, which is our paper permit application, right? General fields are the same. You can enter your information in a field. It's automatically saved as you go for most of the fields. And it helps have the applicants provide their own information themselves. Obviously, we have many applicants, utility companies, consultants that are working on multiple applications at a time. So you can have a list of your permits that are in varying stages of application or approval, which I'll get into in a little bit. Go ahead, forward. This is one of my favorite parts. It allows folks to use maps to basically say where their project is, and pulls the data that we have about that project location that we've been asking permittee or applicants to provide all this time. And I always joke that we will no longer be asking for a section, township, and range for their the location of their project. You can search your address, get to it, click a dot on a map, and say generally that's where my encroachment's going to be, and it'll pull who the maintainer is in the area, what levees are being affected, et cetera. Or whether you're in a designated floodway or regulated stream, and take that knowledge forward for the applicant and for us. So this is a big help, I think, for everyone involved. And you notice this map too is sort of a subset of the viewer that the staff's been using for years. This is more of the public information that can help an applicant understand where they fit in our jurisdictional area, that kind of thing. Okay, move forward. So additional, yes.
On that last slide, would the applicant be able to move with a mouse around and place the location?
Yes, that's exactly it, right? They can drop a pin that it's
Not
there.
just an address, you can actually
Correct.
place it.
Yeah, we kind of did a little bit of both. You can enter your address to get close, and then you have to click on the map.
I think it's important that you can move around.
Right. With everything that we do with GPS and your favorite mapping service, it's similar to that to make that happen.
Well, I hope you don't rely on an address because they change.
Right.
They change. Huh.
Yeah. Likewise, our application process requires a lot of documentation, right? Environmental documentation, plans, specs, other permits, things like that. So obviously, we have the ability to upload documentation directly to this. We've got it in a really organized format so that our staff knows they uploaded this file for this reason, and that it can kind of be organized from the get-go, which I hope will be helpful. We understand packages come in different shapes and sizes, but I think it's still a good way that we've set this up here. Next slide, please. And I think this part is one of the parts that we're most proud of and looking forward to help the public understand and answer the question, where is my permit in the process? Our staff gets those calls all the time. They're happy to answer them, but the fact of the matter is it takes time for them to answer that question and research and pull that up. As efficiencies have been made, we would love to be able to have someone log in and see, at least at a high level, where in the permit process they are towards approval. I should pause here. Our permitting section manager, Steve Lamb, was not able to be here today, but not only this tracker, the entire permit portal is largely in thanks to him and his thoughts on and real deep thinking about how this is going to work for the public, for our staff, and knowing everything that comes across his desk. He's been in lockstep with our consultant to do that. And this was one of the biggest ones, to inform staff of what status updates need to be shown so that it pushes out to this website so that folks have accurate information about where their application is in the process. I should note, too, I didn't have the right screen here. There's different chevrons of kind of high level where you are in the process. This also does take into account if you are a federal in a federal jurisdiction, because there is a core review, right, for Section 408, and there'd be a couple additional chevrons in this status application tracker to show that it's being reviewed by the core, right? Like maybe the board has done their part. We're waiting for that 408 to come back so we can move forward. But all of this is, as Mr. Leaf said in our strategic plan, to increase our transparency, right, and accountability. Whose ball is the court in? Is it in? Can someone log in and say, "Oh, I have something to do. The board thinks they need some more information from me. I need to do something," or it's not in the board's hands; it's in the core's hands, or vice versa. The board's still working on it. So that was some of the questions we get asked all the time, and we're going to hope that this helps with that. I should say too that folks will get automated emails when they pass certain milestones along the permitting process. So just like you do when you're logging into an account or getting something approved for any of other types of business, that it's the same type of situation.
I'm going to bring this up. Every time we just say the board, with the belief that everyone's going to understand, whether that's staff or
Right.
those of us sitting opposite table to you today.
Yes.
And I think it gets confusing.
I'll try not to. I'll try to
No, I know
bifurcate a
that.
little
I mean,
bit.
you say that, it's like
Yeah.
initiate, board review initiated. That's not us.
That's true.
That's not the board, it's staff.
Right.
So I think you need to put that extra word in there.
We can definitely be more nuanced on that.
I
Absolutely.
mean, and I know most who are asking for a permit understand that, but you're going to get some that don't, and they're going to call me, and I'm going to call you,
Right.
and then all the efficiency of this great online thing is going to
Right.
go away.
The question will get answered, but yeah, at what cost? Yes. Right. Noted. Thank you. Another feature that I'd like to point out is that we're fully aware that many of our applicants literally wear different hats in the flood control space. Maybe a consultant is the district engineer for a local maintaining agency. they're the ones that are reviewing a set of plans in front of them and endorsing them. But on another day, they could be working with a local farmer for the irrigation pipe and applying for a permit on their behalf. So we took that into account, and we acknowledged that, and users that have multiple roles will be able to log into, all right, who are you today? Who are you acting as today? And so it allows folks to not have to have multiple email accounts with different passwords. The system is built to know who you are for that day and ask what you're trying to do if you're fulfilling those multiple roles. Yeah, that's the point of this slide. And so diving down to that, for those that are, for our LMA partners that are reviewing and endorsing or approving it at the local level, this is going to allow them to see what permits have been submitted in their area. They'll get an email notification that there's an application ready for your review, and then they can do what they normally do on a permit application, either approve with comments, upload some attachments. Maybe if they have their own, local approval process, they can attach that. Of course, deny or state their objections to it. And so we have a nice screen for them to be able to log in, see what's on their plate for still need to be reviewed, those they've responded to recently, and also, again, using some of the geographic information, they're going to be able to look up historical applications in their area. So permits that have a dot on the map, if our data is accurate enough, they'll be able to see all the permits that in the area that they are responsible for. So don't quote me on all the accuracies of it, where it's not going to catch everything, but it's going to be maybe a good help for LMAs that are wondering if they see some work going on in their area or they want to look up an old permit, they can look for it in this list with their logins. I do want to point out some limitations for this. I don't, as awesome as it is, the primary process that's being improved is not the entire permitting process. We know it's a long journey to get a permit approved between the different parties, but this is really improving the intake part of it, the very beginning part of it, right? And that first interaction with the board. It does not control how fast the federal government can move for a 408 approval. Magically, it doesn't do a technical review that staff has to do. So those timelines, this doesn't affect those. Unfortunately, we're not able to launch an online payment at this time, so people can't pay like with their credit card. That's what we want to get to in the future. We're still kind of doing the normal check and or money order for fee payment, but the permit application portal does calculate what that fee is going to be and the instructions on what to do next. So the payment still has to get over to our office, by mail or person, but this will help at least explain what that is and pushes forward our Title 23, rules for what those fees are.
Can I ask a question on that?
Of course.
Is this something that eventually we can accomplish, or does it require approval at other levels besides the flood board?
For the online payment?
Yeah.
I think we can do it, absolutely. It just will take time because there are different elements of the state that work with accounting that have their own processes that we need to work within that world. And so we've engaged them. It's just we just needed more time to make that work. We think we can.
I was wondering if some other entity needed to do that. This is a tough thing because you're dealing with money, and then you got to be sure.
Right. State budget processes and accounting processes are not at the top of mind for civil engineers every day, but
Really?
but it's I'm pretty confident we can do that. Yep.
Well, that the intake can be online, that's a major improvement.
Right. Okay. Next slide, please.
Just gonna wait. Madam Chair, I just want to weigh in on that point. There has been a lot of progress made in this area in the last 6 years. I mean, DMV being the very first one that obviously like almost millions of Californians interact with every year to pay their car registration. And you can pay with a credit card now, and that used to not be the case. And then I know the consumer affairs departments have also initiated similar efforts to this in terms of their annual permitting jobs. And so I'm sure there are some things that we can learn from other departments to be able to connect that. And I'm happy to make some calls and get some meetings to make that happen.
Thank you.
You'd be very smart to call on her.
Absolutely. Utilize everyone we can.
I just have some personal experience with that specifically, and this whole user experience. You know, the state's on a many-year journey to do much better in this customer experience realm, and one of them is getting with the times and being able to easily make payments and not have to rely on these older systems.
That certainly is the expectation now, even by those of us who went to college without online access for anything. But it's tough. You got to have protections in there too. Yeah, I'd call it. Okay, wow.
So I wanted to take a slide to really acknowledge a dedicated team, top to bottom. Our consultant, the actual programmers and developers of the website, GEI, have been amazing. Steve and I have had to distill all the discussions, our world of how a permit gets from an application to construction to them, and for them to distill that into a website that makes sense. And hopefully, like most websites you go to, it is self-explanatory as you go, and people can navigate it well. And they've done a fantastic job of understanding the concepts, the databases we're working with, and that leads me also to DWR's Division of Technology Services and the Enterprise Project and Portfolio Management. We had a project manager that has helped drive the charge between kind of our disparate areas of technology services and how the state works with public websites, that kind of thing. Just second to none. We've all been working in lockstep to make sure that the actual servers and the websites are going to work okay and they're secure enough, that kind of thing, for this kind of public interface. So a big thanks to them. Also support from management and our internal staff to get the funding to do this, to support us and carve out enough space so we can actually develop something in the background here. We know it's been a while to develop it, but it's really been really great. And final kind of internal testers. Our staff has been trying to break this internally, and we've asked a few select external partners. We're in that kind of beta testing phase right now to navigate it. Does it make sense? What's your feedback? So Mr. Engler actually was one of them, and somehow successfully did it. So we're pretty happy that it worked to a certain extent. So we found some bugs here and there, and we're going to find some more. But our staff has a laundry list of improvements they want to see, little errors they've seen. So we're hoping for the best. We know it might be a little bumpy ride for a little while as we refine some of this. But I guess next slide. So like I said, we are working right now on our final updates and testing. And we are going to be training staff on the new workflows and how this is going to work with and be shifting towards what do they expect to see from the application database versus the current standard of practice. I should say part of the thought of developing this too was knowing that not every applicant wants to apply online and still may want to submit a paper copy. So I just want to put on the record that that's still an option for folks to use the current process. And so we've thought about that. And likewise for LMAs, if they, for some reason, don't want to use that, we can still utilize the older processes. This is in parallel, but we hope to shift and hope everyone sees that value and that it's helpful. But it doesn't mean that it's the only way of doing business going forward. And also, like I said, we're going to be adding additional features. The fees, online payment is a big one. I'm sure we'll find, we're looking at things all the time that you can't do it all at once, but you're going to do different versions moving forward. So we hope to improve it. And we have contracts in place that with the folks that can make those changes in place, and we're meeting with them on a consistent basis, which is just fantastic because we have some buy-in from everybody. So next slide, please. So some next steps. We're going to be talking about this again at the FMA conference in September. We'll be providing some training for the LMAs and district engineers and reviewing folks at the local level, state and local level. And we're planning for a full release this fall. I don't have a exact date for you. We still have to get through some of this final testing here, but the rollout is coming. So we're excited for it. Again, I'm really feel privileged to be able to tell you about this. I think this is going to be a shift where we need to go for a long time and be a good move forward.
Here, here. Congratulations to all of you for the effort on this, and it will be ongoing. I have a question. Once this is up and running and functional, who is going to manage it? What happens if there's a solar flare and it just disappears?
Oh boy, now we're getting technical about management and databases.
Well, these things, they don't take care of themselves.
Right. What I've been told by the folks that have managed our database for decades now is that the robustness and backups for these systems are better than they used to be. We have separated data, different data centers that to save this this information. So to answer your question for management, day to day there are select staff that have admin privileges that can help someone online, that can look at it from different angles and see what they're seeing to help an applicant through or an LMA through. Obviously, there's programming stuff that's out of our expertise that we have the consultant nearby to improve or change or answer our call for that. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes.
Cool.
Thanks. I'm pointing this way. See if you would turn on your mic. Is that a yes, Mr. Countryman?
That's yes.
Okay, thank you for letting me know about that signal. I didn't.
Well, I have several questions. As far as data security goes, so the data is going to be kept on the cloud, or is there a physical location for it?
There are different data centers that they are kept on. I don't exactly remember where geographically they are. I think they're generally local, but yes, they're backed up in multiple places. And like I said, I should say that there's still going to be intake staff that looks at a permit that resides on the portal before it gets transferred over to the database that feeds everything else. Mm-hmm. So in case someone's putting in nonsensical data or whatever else, there's still someone to check on that to see this is a legit permit.
Yeah, I'm mainly concerned, like, if it was like at one location and something happened there, we could lose all the data.
Right.
Which would be kind of scary for us, right?
Right.
So the plan is to have multiple or at least two locations for storing the data?
I'm going to be fully honest, and I'll get back to you on that, on exactly how and where it's stored.
Yeah, what's the security level for it?
The other level of security, too, is there's a state requirement for multi-factor authentication when you first create an account and log in. So proving really who you are That was a state requirement, and so you'll have that extra, get the text on your phone or an email to verify that that's you. So an added layer of security for account creation and work.
How does the conversion program, the slow but steady conversion program we have for the paper to the electronic, how does that interface this, if at all?
It will. We have students working in the office that are scanning documents and putting data into fields. So that would work in the fact where for local maintaining agencies, like I showed, that you could look at historical permits in your area. If that old permit gets digitized and has a location on it, it will show up on that list. That's the hope. For permittee or permit applicants, they're not going to be able to see every permit ever
Right.
issued. So that's not part of the plan right now. But it does tie into it. It's a digitization of that data.
I guess my question is that conversion going to the intermediate step, the 20-year step that you talked about?
Yeah, the centralized database that is in the middle of that hub, that's still going to continue, and it's being updated with better software and servers and things like that. Sorry, this is engineer out of my comfort zone for saying what these pieces are, but you go ahead.
Igor Liang, I'm the operations branch manager with the board. I wanted to address Joe Countryman's question about a couple questions. First, you mentioned about where the database is stored. It's currently, so we're not changing anything about where the database is stored. So currently, my understanding, DWR CDEC, California Data Exchange Center, they are helping us managing and basically to store the server of the data is stored. So there's no change to that. Our work is to develop application to be able to interact with the database. We're not changing the database. And your second question is also about the data conversion and from paper to digital. That is still a continual work. That is going to improve, populate the information within the database. So make the database maybe increase the size of historic permit records within the database. It does not change the configuration of database or location of anything. It's just make it contain more information.
So these new electronic applications will go into the same database as the historic ones, let's call them, that are being modified to make them electronic. So when that database is interrogated, it'll see all of the permits that are either completed or active.
Correct.
Oh, that's good. It's very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more? You still have your light on.
Sorry.
Okay. Do you have any wrap-ups? Thank you for identifying all the help and answering all our questions. I really am so appreciative of board's competence on this, not just this. This now, I like what else you do, but this one is like remarkable.
No, it's great. Again, I'm just being the messenger here today. It was a very big team that just really put a lot of thought into this. I guess I could add that there are other ways that cities and counties and other sections of government handle their permitting. There's off-the-shelf products that those folks can bend to what they do, but we have a really unique space that we cover for our regulations, and so this thing really was built from the ground up. And so the amount of information that Steve Land was able to pull out and effectively convey to the developer and them to understand it to create a product that makes sense, it was very impressive to see that happen. So I just want to, again, acknowledge that team and him for sure. So, but that's all I had today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are we still funded to correct the bugs that you're going to inevitably find?
Yes, happy to say we are.
Any further remarks, Ms. Buckley?
No further remarks here.
Okay. Then we move on. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I know, I know. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. Is there any public comment? That would be on this item. Then I'll say, anybody just want to tell us something that will only take 3 minutes, but I'll give you more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, President Dolan, members of the board, Tom Engler, MBK Engineers here again this time. I just wanted to say that I had a client that needed to submit a permit back in July. Steve Lamb asked if our client would be willing to do it on this portal. They helped walk me through the process, and I'm just here to tell you it was pretty clean and pretty smooth for the first time going through it. There's a couple really nice features. The GIS feature where you drop your pin where your permit is and it kind of automatically populates all these fields was great. The other thing I really liked about it is it produces an invoice for the fees. In the past, it was difficult to get an invoice and very difficult to get things processed sometimes because you don't have an invoice. This automatically generated that. And then once the application, everything was complete and the board received the check with the invoice, within hours I was told that we have your application, here's your permit number, and that process used to take a couple weeks or a month sometimes. So right there we've already saved weeks or possibly a month. So I just want to say it's looking like this is going to be a great process, and I'm really happy to see it moving forward. And thank the staff. I know there's a lot of them that aren't here today that have worked very hard on this. So I just want to say that so far everything looks like it's going to be a big, big improvement. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing that experience. Anyone else? Any hands up on this item? Is there any public comment on something that's within our jurisdiction but was not on the agenda? Just see staff out there, so you don't want to say something? Okay. Flood Control Association always gets up and says something. Not today. Okay, you're just smiling. Anyone online? Just give us a comment. Okay, not. Is there anything a board member wants to bring forward for discussion, comment, input? Okay, well, I added this, so I'm going to do something. I'm working with Mr. Leaf to adjust the assignments for the regional flood management programs. I think that we know that they've been combined, so the three that I would call in Northern California are now meeting as a unit. The same for the San Joaquin, meeting as a unit. I would think that there's not an interest in the local maintaining agencies to have anyone who wants to come and talk about what they're doing. So we need to reduce the number of assignments of board members to 2. So I'm thinking about that. So I'll give you, call me if there's one that you want. So my thought is there would be 2 of us who would be assigned that, and then 1 as an alternate in case something happens. And there are times that we just wouldn't go anyway because the agenda was boring. But we want to do it. And I want you to know I'm going to assign to myself the Sacramento Upper Sac. So just wanted to let you know. Someone else has already given me input. But I'll let you know probably the next meeting. I'm sorry that had to happen. I hope it works. It would be better if the RFMPs had the money that they had and need, but we'll go forward. Okay. Anything else? Okay, don't want anybody yelling at me if I do this. Meeting adjourned.